If you're a normal human being, you probably like to win. I know I do. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to do that in the context of a healthy local church. We're in our core values series, and it's lesson number 3. And here's how we articulate this value. We win as a team, not as individuals. At Alpine Church, we believe that everyone has something to offer for the greater good. Now, before we look at that passage in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, I want to share a principle from the Bible that you've probably never heard before. The drive to succeed in isolation is meaningless and depressing. God designed us to win together. Now, those aren't actually my words. They're taken straight from the Bible. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, starting in verse 7, the wise King Solomon says this, I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is all so meaningless and depressing. Now, this passage might resonate for some of you in the context of your workplace. Maybe you feel like you've toiled throughout your career. I know that a lot of men and women have that sense, have that feeling. But in this lesson, I want to talk about it in the context of the local church and being a part of the team in the local church. It is so true there as well, that if you are trying to do the church thing, if you're trying to do the Christian life thing, on your own, by yourself, without connecting into the local church in a meaningful way, I think you're going to find that it really is meaningless and depressing. But the next verses give us a little bit of hope. This is where Solomon says, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. It really is true that God designed us to win together in all of life, but especially when it comes to the local church. See, in the church, you're invited to be a part of something bigger than you. By God's grace, everyone brings something to the table. The Apostle Paul says as much in Romans chapter 12. He says, just as our bodies have many parts, and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In His grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. And in the verses that follow, he gives his first list of spiritual gifts that we find in the New Testament. Paul actually has 2 different lists, one in Romans 12 and another one in 1 Corinthians 12. Let's take a look first at Romans chapter 12. He says some people can prophesy, some people have the gift of serving, others teaching, others encouraging, others giving. There's a gift of leadership. There's even a gift of kindness. So this first list in Romans chapter 12 is really practical and very, very relatable. Maybe you can identify 1 or 2 of those as your spiritual gift. But later in 1 Corinthians 12, Paul gives another list, and except for prophecy, it's completely different. He lists out the gift of wise advice, the gift of special knowledge, the gift of great faith, the gifts of healing and miracles, the gift of spiritual discernment, and even the gift of tongues. Now, Paul's not trying to be exhaustive in his 2 lists of spiritual gifts in these 2 chapters in his writings. But the point is that everyone has a place to serve in a healthy local church. And we want to invite you at Alpine Church to find your place to serve if you haven't already. See, we believe that church isn't about one person. It's not about one all-star getting up there and preaching a message or leading worship, whatever, the kinds of things that are more noticeable when you show up at church. But from the very beginning at Alpine Church, we have been all about empowering everyone to get in the game because, again, this is really how we win. We don't want to try to win in isolation. Relationships, we talked about this in value number 2. Healthy relationships are really important to us. They're so important to us that we actually believe we win together as a team, but only when everyone gets in the game and finds a place to serve. And one more thing, God doesn't want something from you when you serve. He wants something for you. We're always more blessed to give than to receive. This is actually a principle from the Bible, from Acts chapter 20, verse 35. Paul says, you should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Now, what's interesting about this passage is that Jesus never says this anywhere in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. You're not going to find this exact phrase coming from the mouth of Jesus. Now, I personally believe that Jesus probably spoke this to Paul during that time when he first came to faith and he went off into the wilderness and he really just spent alone time with God's word and with Jesus himself. So I think that probably Jesus revealed this to Paul on a very personal level. But the principle is found in Luke chapter 6, verse 38. That's where Jesus said, give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap. And this is why we're always talking about serving opportunities at Alpine Church. We want you to be blessed. We really believe, because we've noticed this in our own lives, all of the pastors can vouch for this principle, that when you serve, you get something from God. You're not just giving something to God or to the church. I mean, the truth is, God doesn't need us. He can do it all without us. But he wants us to join in. He wants all of us to find our place on the team. Because as we say in core value number 3, we win as a team, not as individuals. We believe everyone has something to offer for the greater good.
When I think about God designed us to win together, I think about when we launched Syracuse campus. And at the time I was going to Layton, I was a service leader or an overseer there. And I remember Pastor G coming up to me and asking me if I would be willing to transition from Layton to help Syracuse launch. And I was surprised at first, but I said, well, let me and my wife think about it and let us pray about it and we'll get back to you. I said, so where's this Syracuse campus going to be? He says, see, well, that's the tricky part. You remember when Moses was wandering the desert? Well, we don't have a building yet, but we will by the time we launch. So don't worry about that. So my wife and I, we thought about it, we prayed about it. We let G know, let's do this. And it wasn't just us. It was several folks at the Layton campus. And it was also several other campuses asking some of their key members to do the same thing. And we wanted to make sure that we started Syracuse off right. And I remember G mentioning that we give up what we love for what we love more. You know, topic week series 4 from this core value series. And it made a lot of sense because we knew that if all the campuses had just kept all the people there and just let the Syracuse campus pastors say, okay, you got it, go find people, go grow the campus, and so forth, that it probably wouldn't turn out too well. And so together as a team, we set out to help launch the Syracuse campus.
There's so many different ways to serve. I mean, I serve with the Divine Back 9 Golf. I prepared the golf tournament this year for Alpine Church. And there's been many times people come up and they ask for prayer, or they know that you go to church and you have an opportunity to share it with them. And there are folks that don't even walk in the doors of a church. But if we just serve, make ourselves available, coffee team, cleaning the bathrooms, it's just making the church presentable. So folks walk in, they feel comfortable, they hear the gospel every Sunday. It's just simple. We have to do something to to reach more people, to take more to heaven with us, because the world's doing a really good job of confusing and distorting truth. We have to combat it somehow, and serving is the greatest way. The rewards that we get from serving, I can't even count them. How many kids have come up to me and said how much they appreciate hearing about how much God loves them. Parents come up and say, man, my kid really does enjoy learning about God. And then the really great ones are when you get a parent that comes up and says, hey, my kid accepted Christ because they heard about Jesus in your class. That is just, it is just something you can't describe, the thrill of knowing that you had a small part in some kid's life or anybody's life that has accepted Christ.
So we set out to help launch Syracuse campus. And we all knew that we were going to be part of something bigger. Now, I'm sure changing campuses may have been difficult for a lot of folks. I mean, we have to remember they were leaving friends and years worth of relationships. They were leaving coffee in a permanent building. So no doubt this transition might be a little bit difficult. However, changing gave folks an opportunity to be not just a part of their campus, but Alpine as a whole, and even more broadly, God's commission to go and make disciples. And we were going to be a part of a completely new community. And it turned out that some of the folks that came to Syracuse, particularly in the beginning, they had never heard of Alpine. And they had been looking for a non-denominational Christian church. And so by Alpine as a whole, and those that transitioned to Syracuse, and just as importantly, those that stayed behind to fill in the gaps that were left, we were all part of something bigger. And the bottom line was, we were just trying to help build God's kingdom.
Serving has impacted my life. It's huge. It's my walk with Christ is based on a lot of it is influenced by working in kids' church, teaching the kids. I learned more about the Bible. I'm able to explain it to the kids, and in order to explain it to the kids, I actually have to be into the Bible. The lessons are prepared, and they're amazing lessons. They're simple lessons, but it's lessons that we often forget. And the opportunities to share that with our kids and then watch them grow in their faith. But before I present that lesson, I think the key is praying. That I pray for the lesson, I pray for the kids, that it'll be communicated clearly to them. And while doing that, I'm reading in the Bible about the lesson, and I can sit there and remember more about God's word. I really, for 4th and 5th graders, I really work hard at explaining to them how to share the gospel with their friends. And it's amazing how the Holy Spirit just works and brings people in front of me. And I was like, I can present my 4th and 5th grade lesson to those folks.
As we're really getting close to opening the Syracuse campus, we start thinking about filling some of the ministry needs. And some did what they had previously done at their campus, while others had jumped into totally uncharted waters, doing something totally new. For instance, we didn't have a kids' church director at first, and so my wife and another young lady, they started the kids' ministry until we hired the kids' church director. And at first, We didn't have kids' church teachers, of course. And a lot of folks volunteered to be kids' church teachers who had never done that before. We're talking people volunteering for setup and tear down crews, grading, all the little things that go into starting a new campus. And folks started leading small groups who had never led small groups before as a part of the Syracuse growth. And it was really, really amazing to see so many people being stretched by God, being used by God in ways that I know for a fact with some of those individuals, they would have never thought that God would use them in such a way. And the fulfillment that they received, the joy that I saw in their hearts as they were serving was very, very encouraging. And particularly the kids' church teachers, because we all know how sometimes that can be a little intimidating. But a lot of folks jumped in there into this makeshift kids' church, and the joy that they saw in the kids learning about God really, really helped them grow and helped them mature in Christ, because in essence, they were truly making disciples. And so seeing how it wasn't that God wanted to use us, but it was God has something for us. And to wrap all of these aspects of transitioning from Layton to Syracuse and from Riverdale and West Haven and other campuses to Syracuse, and seeing how together we win as a team was just so encouraging. It really gave confidence to so many people as they pursued God.